Beyond the headlines. This is World Insight.
Hello and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng met with the German Economy and Energy Minister, together with German business representatives in Beijing. He hopes that both sides are keen on sustained, healthy bilateral economic and trade relations through high-level cooperation. The German Economy and Energy Minister expressed the German business community's confidence in China's prospects and innovation capabilities. Meanwhile, the European Union is preparing widened import quotas and tariffs against Chinese goods. China's potential has not only been realized through industrial competition, but also in cooperation. The business communities on both sides understands very well the importance of cooperation. For example, the electronic vehicle industry. So first, let's hear from German car maker Mercedes-Benz and Bosch, a leading global supplier of technology and services. We see China's transformation in the auto industry and also its tremendous guts for innovation, of course. And you have been partners with Chinese counterparts for quite some time. So what do you think is the current stage of taking each other's innovation as the center and be able to make the best out of it?
So the great thing with the tech ecosystem here in China is that you can work with both the big giants that you know from your smartphone world, whether it's ByteDance or Tencent or Alibaba, all of those companies. So everything that you want and you're used to in your smartphone ecosystem, should that stop at the car? Of course not. The car needs to be a smart cockpit, a convenient smart cockpit. It's almost like a butler that serves you. But there's also a very broad ecosystem of medium-sized or startup, smaller tech companies. About 10 years ago, we got in contact with a almost brand new startup with a small but very dedicated, very skilled team called Momenta. And here we are now, less than 10 years later, and the German chancellor gets to drive in a Mercedes S-Class through Beijing, point-to-point navigation, autonomous, in a partnership between Mercedes-Benz and Momenta that we took a stake in back then. So you have all these partnerships, and if there is a red thread through this, is it's easy to engage. And it's very, let's say, we're very quick at building fast and strong relationships. And you need that. Why? Because the Chinese customer in general, compared to the rest of the world or our portfolio, is younger, very technology oriented, and willing to experiment.
Yet, there are a lot of policy changes. Some are for the benefits of giving some breathing ground for a company like yours for the transformation. However, others also argue, well, these kinds of green tariff may not necessarily be for the ultimate health of companies like yours. What is your take? How do you discuss with the policymakers about the pace, about the rhythm?
We want companies to come to China. We want also companies to export to China. So if China continues to open up the market and make it easier for us either to invest or through our operations from overseas access the market, of course, that would be important for us. But I think long term, that is going to strengthen China. Let's not be naive. Over the last several years, there have been more protectionistic movements around the world in different places. Speaking as somebody who has the privilege of leading a global company, you don't want protectionism, you want opening up. And maybe the markets, and if China chooses to go this way and maybe be a contrarian in a more protectionistic environment to open up, I believe that will be a long-term benefit. In terms of the transformation to zero emission, I'm absolutely convinced that we will end up one day with all zero emission vehicles.
What is the timetable for that?
Well, here is the thing. In the 150 different markets that we serve, and we have a footprint where we have been global for a long, long time, you find out that the timetable is almost different in every single country. So during that period, and this is going to be a 10, 15, 20-year process, something like that, we need flexibility. We are a world-class leader on high-tech electrified combustion vehicles, and the next generation of those are also being developed. even though the main thrust is into new energy vehicles, the battery electric vehicle. So the customer has the choice. And what works for China in 2026 maybe is different in Germany and yet again different in the United States. So for us, we have to be flexible. It isn't all of the above for the customer for the foreseeable future. And policy making also needs to recognize the pace of market change. Because some things that are obvious if you want to switch over to zero emission is you need charging infrastructure, you need the right incentive structure for taxes, you need the right cost for the energy carrier, and of course on an electric car it's then the electricity. So all these factors, they influence the market. And if a regulator, a policymaker tries to force the market too soon or away from the natural market equilibrium, that is when you have market distortion. And this is the feedback that we're giving to policymakers around the world.
Okay. On the other hand, the Chinese automakers are also going to Germany and other European countries as well. There are manufacturing centers of Chinese automakers in some European countries. So how do you see that interesting balance of cooperation and competition?
The auto industry is a truly global industry.
Yeah.
And if you look at the supply chains and the supply networks around the world, I think in a modern top-level car like the S-Class or any of the cars that we produce here, you have all 5 continents in them. So maybe it's one of the most global industries at all. And when I hear about entrepreneurs seeking their fortune in a different market, I think back to one of our founding fathers, Gottlieb Daimler. He invented the car 140 years ago in 1886. 2 years later, in 1888, he already set up shop in the United States. And imagine the speed at which the world moved back then to, from 2 years of invention to then go across the pond, I think is a very impressive thing. But it's the mindset of an entrepreneur. So the fact that also Chinese entrepreneurs, next to the biggest car market in the world, China, that they seek their fortune in other places, that's normal. That's how a market economy works.
Several, just reference for you, several of the CEOs that I've been talking to, some of them also from Germany, have been telling me their revenue actually has been going up last year out of hard work, and yet the profit margin has been dropping down because of a lot of different complex factors. And they are trying to figure out what is likely to be the timetable for them to come back again, namely having better profit margin. They're thinking about 2027 or even 28, given the latest complexity. What about for Mercedes-Benz? How do you see a more smoother, if you could predict in any way, transition time and for a better prospect?
We were able to produce a very strong free cash flow, which is ultimately, from a financial point of view, the one KPI that counts.
Right.
How much
and
money?
Congratulations
how much
on that.
money is left in your tiller after you have calculated everything? But what is the time frame? I don't think that the intense competitive situation in China is going to go away anytime soon. So there will be pressure here. Of course, the tariff system, especially for a global company like Mercedes-Benz, it has changed, and we have to accept that now. And there are also other regulatory challenges or other things that you mentioned before that's going on in the world. But what are we doing to address that next to short-term management of external disruptions is investing into innovation, technology, and product. So we have in 25, 26, and 27, on a worldwide basis, 40 new models that are coming. Yeah. So I think that 26 for us is a year of execution, actually bringing models into the pipeline, build upon that in 27 and 28. So we take, for this financial picture, we take like a midterm view. Yes, we have a solid foundation. Yes, it is a tougher business environment than it was maybe 3 years ago. But we can deal with it, and we want to build ourselves into a stronger position over the next years into the midterm, carried by the product offensive.
Sounds like the 15th five-year plan.
Actually, Mercedes-Benz also has a 5-year plan. We call it the Mercedes-Benz business plan.
Right.
And as I said, when we read about the 15th five-year plan and we looked at ours,
similarities.
Yeah, on the economic side, a lot of similarities.
There has has been a lot of innovation in China. I understand you have been working together with your Chinese partners. How would you describe the nature of the latest cooperation?
Now, the great thing in China is you can bring innovation very fast into the vehicle because the manufacturer of the vehicle, the OEM, is also willing to take the speed and go for it together with us and bring it into the vehicle and on the street with all the work that has to be done in a very short time. So, for example, if you want to bring a new braking system with a new principle of braking, electromagnetic braking, something like that, in China, you find an OEM where you can do this and bring it to the street in record time. Also in ADAS, or automated driving, that's the place to be because here all the competitors have these systems and we bring ours with our partners onto the street quickly.
But at the same time, I see already beginning this year, you're having new agreements with the Chinese counterparts. What kind of vision are you having with them together? What kind of future do you see?
Now, you see now both, right? On one hand, new innovation in China, which is electrified, which is automated, which is connected. So all the AI cockpit work and all these modern technologies which excite Chinese consumers, this is what's done in China. But there's a second thing going on, which is that Chinese manufacturers now also go abroad. They build factories abroad, in Brazil, in Europe. And then you have to now adapt the Chinese technologies to the market where you need to project it. So there's different technology necessary. And that's what we do with our partners. So for example, in Brazil, they also drive with sugarcane-based alcohol. That's different than in China. Here we drive with gasoline or with electric power. Well, in Brazil, sugarcane-based alcohol is a common thing. By the way, it's pretty green, so we need the technology for the car in Brazil with the Chinese OEM. That's perfect for Bosch as a partner.
You are based in Europe. I understand you have been in constant cooperation and communication with the European policymakers. A lot of people have different opinions about whether green tariffs should be put on the EV and the EV components. So what is your view?
Well, we see that in the past, obviously, we all were dreaming of that the planet is one common market, easy to operate, no problem at all. And that's obviously still a dream I have, because that's the best for innovation. If we have just one market and it's beautifully equal, no problem with inequalities, and it's a perfect thing for some company like Bosch. On the other hand, we now see tariffs have been introduced. So there is no barriers, and we have barriers in the markets. They could be tariffs, there could be technological barriers, there could be regulatory barriers. So some things are in industrial policy now connected. Meanwhile, we talk about economics policy plus safety and security and national interest policy together. So things will be a bit more difficult. In some areas, very difficult. In other areas, a bit more difficult. Hopefully not too much, because in the end, the key essence of progress on the world is still collaboration. And collaboration means to work with each other. So I hope very much that between the European Union and China, they will find an agreement so that this is an equal, fair marketplace, because that's the goal. And for us, we have to operate with what regulators tell us, right? That's our thing. And with our partners, Chinese OEMs, European OEMs, American OEMs, we have to find a way to get this done.
But you are also talking to the regulators as a leader of your industry. So how does that communication process go so far?
No, that's obviously always depending on where you are, because regulators have a very perspective on their regulatory area. So if you talk to the European regulators, you have to talk about what situation they're in. What is the risk they face? They are politicians, so they have to be elected in Europe. So we have to talk on their circumstances with them. Obviously, mentioning our interest as technology company, on the other hand, we have to respect their duties. And similar, it's on other regions of the world, we have always to respect also the perspective of the regulator. On the other hand, technology is something which is always shared planetary. Right. You can't keep it somewhere in the cage, right? Technology will always break out.
It doesn't work that way.
That doesn't work that way. So we have to also tell that the regulators and say, hey, if you want the newest technology, quickest, fastest, collaborate.
And if you want to be competitive, also collaboration can go there.
Well, competitiveness is something which has to do with also conditions. And the conditions are set by many things in a country. For example, in China, this is a highly competitive place. because people work diligently. We have very innovative people coming from university, right? We are integrated in these supply chains in China, great partnerships, quick market access, and a great consumer who likes technology, which is fantastic. We are questioning always who likes technology most. China and India are the most liking populations on the world for technology. This is helping a lot. A lot is also to do with what is the market size. And that's also not so bad for China, right? It's a great market size. Europe, also fantastic market size, but definitely also some different conditions than China.
From north to south, east to west, people in China are chasing their dreams and leaving their mark. Want to know how they beat the odds and made a difference? Footprints brings you the true life stories of their journeys.
The economic and trade cooperation between China and Britain has enjoyed steady growth in recent years. The UK is now China's third largest trading partner and investment destination, and at the same time a source of foreign investment in Europe. That's as China is Britain's largest trading partner in Asia. So what makes China a top draw for investment? I asked Sir Sebastian Wood, the China-Britain British Council chair, and also my conversation with Rio Tinto CEO Simon Trott. Everybody in the world is aware of the rift taking place across the Atlantic. How does the UK look at its business and economic relationship in the overall global backdrop?
Well, I think I'd just make two broad points. The first is that the UK is an open economy and has been now for a very long time. We have noticed also that China has maintained a commitment to continuing to open up to foreign trade partners. So that is our response to the protectionism which we see growing in some other parts of the world. And it's the right response, for the UK and China to recommit to open trade and to rules-based international trade. So that's the first thing I'd say. And the second thing I'd say is that as an open economy, the UK has to take the opportunities of the world's three great markets, if I can put it like that. The US is certainly one of those great markets. The EU single market is the second. China, crucially, is the third of those three great markets. And we need the best possible trading and investment relationship with all three of those markets. And no one should expect us to choose between them.
Now we are seeing huge service trade surplus between the UK and China.
We notice that the fourth plenum of the Central Committee committed to high-level opening up of services as a sort of guiding policy for the next 5-year plan. So we anticipate that the consumption of services in China, which is already growing, is going to grow even faster in the future. And this is very much a strategic opportunity for the two countries to do more together.
Yes, and a lot of common Chinese, if you walk in the street, they recognize the strength of service trade by the UK in China.
Yes, and it's I think we could see a significant further wave in the next few years.
However, globally speaking, we have seen tariff wars, trade wars based on facts mainly only about goods trade. Mm-hmm. We understand the United States, for example, is the largest service trade surplus holder in the world. So how should the world understand more comprehensively, Mr. Chair, about the categories of trade and how complementary, in fact, we have been toward one another?
Well, it's up to people like you and me to constantly remind the public in our comments, in our commentary, of the importance of services in global trade, in international trade. And it's up to politicians as well to make clear to their publics what matters to business and what matters to the economy. And goods is part of it, services is also part of it. And as countries get richer,
indeed,
people spend more of their income, a higher and higher proportion of their income on services. And that's what we expect to see in China. It's beginning to happen in China, and we expect that trend to accelerate in the next few years.
Mr. Chair, on the new energy area, solar and wind power Actually, China is leading it and the leading practitioner of it. Tell me how complementary this could be for the UK when the European continent as a whole is searching for new opportunities of energy.
You raise an important point, and China is actually leading the world now in some of the most important technologies of the coming century, including renewable energy technology, solar and wind power, and also, of course, battery technology and battery storage. And China is on the way to becoming the world's first electro-state, if I can
so
put it like that.
Yes.
This needs to be better understood in my country, in the UK, and we should see Chinese investment in those sectors as an opportunity to raise our own game and to actually modernize and invigorate our own renewable energy industry. We have, of course, strengths in that area. We have outstanding globally leading scientific research and innovative capability, and some great companies. But more Chinese investment in those sectors would, I think, be very good for the British economy, and the same is true in Europe.
How will the British businesses take advantage of that?
I hope we might see some bilateral government-to-government recognition of that. So that would be one observation. Another is that the more and more Chinese enterprises want to go out and internationalize their operations and their supply chains. That's partly a response to protectionism. It's partly a response to very fierce domestic competition here in China. It is certainly an opportunity for UK financial and professional services, because those are firms that have fantastic international networks, and they are natural partners for Chinese enterprises that want to move into other parts of the world. So we can be a partner for China as it goes out.
15th five-year plan. Tell me more, what does that mean in terms of opportunities for you?
So the 15th five-year plan really provides a clear direction for us to continue to work together, for us to continue to provide the materials that China needs for ongoing development. And so for Rio Tinto, it really is a clear roadmap for how best we continue to collaborate. And one of the things that really stands out is that they will be resource intensive, and so we need to make sure that our business is really strong so that we continue to play a supporting role, providing the materials needed for that transition.
When you say resource intensive, yes indeed. What are some of the trends you're watching most closely for such a big market like China?
Yeah. So for us, we're focused on four main commodities: iron ore, aluminium, copper, and lithium. Actually, the timing of the forum is perfect, because our first lithium supply from developments that we've got in Argentina is due to arrive in Shanghai in coming days. And I think that symbolises a little bit the change and the way commodities is changing, because some of those commodities supporting that energy transition are really starting to increase in terms of demand, and we need to make sure that we continue to bring that supply to market.
Meanwhile, also we are seeing new trends in the industry. For example, applications of AI. It is a constantly changing technology. We see, for example, it's just for your reference, in China, a lot of people are enthusiastic about OpenClaw, but also OpenClaw has its technological hazards from time to time. So, but my question really is, how do you observe this and understand when to jump, which one to jump on?
Yeah. Comes down to prioritisation, because if you try and do everything, you get nothing done.
Good quote. That's a great quote.
And so you've got to focus on the ones where you think you've got real competitive advantage, or you can translate into competitive advantage, but also one that's going to move the needle for your business. And so one of the things that we're trying to do with the reset of the Rio Tinto strategy is really focusing our efforts where we really can make material difference, rather than spreading them across too many
Can you
things.
be more specific rather than philosophical on that point, for example?
Well, so on digital, for
Yeah.
example, rather than doing many different projects, choosing one or two projects where we really have significant amounts of data in that space, for example, in geotech or in some of our ore body knowledge work. We've got significant amounts of data. We've got tools now that actually can access that data in a different way and really putting resources to try and make progress in that area rather than spreading it too broadly.
But here comes another question. How do you face this, rare phenomenon, a rare opportunity? Make the best out of it.
Yeah.
But not at the same time, as you said, doing everything all at the same time. I would love to hear from you.
I felt one of the things that was interesting in the speech today was there was examples given of innovations.
Yes.
The car, smartphones,
Yeah.
and not just that innovation, but then what it led to in the market, and new markets being developed around it. But there was one common thread, and that was resources. Both of those innovations and the markets that were then created needed raw materials to be able to support those. And so I think the world is focusing more on supply chains, focusing more on resources and access to resources. And so it's a fantastic time to be a mining company.
And that's all the time we have for today. I'm Tian Wei on behalf of the team. Thanks for being with us. Everybody have a great weekend. Bye for now.